View from the Gutters, Episode 19. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss Earth X, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 5622. Alright, welcome to View from the Gutters, episode 19, Earth X.
Redux.
Redux.
Yes. Reduction.
Part 2.
I promise. Yes. We'll lose none of the subtlety of the original.
We are actually throwing out all the original continuity, though, and rebooting this.
Well, the only three people that were on that show were me, you, and Matt.
But this is still the reboot, and I'm Andrew Chard.
No, I'm Andrew Chard.
No, wait. I'm Andrew Chard.
I'm Earth X Andrew Chard.
Can I be Joe Preti?
You can be Joe Preti.
You are Joe Preti.
Why
would you want to be?
You're Cade Reynolds. You're Tobiah Panshin, and
Cade gets to be Matt McGinnis.
Oh, yeah. I was like,
there we go. Come on, Joe.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a Matt.
Yep.
Mind rift!
You're screwing up our beard force.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice.
You know, nobody would have known that if we hadn't said anything, though.
Yeah, Matt has an awesome beard, actually. Toby's just joking.
Like,
it's amazing.
It's like chest length.
Puts all our beards to shame.
I think we need to all trim a little bit off our beards and make one extra beard for you.
Like amalgam, like an amalgam beard.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
In the trash can in my room is the beard I shaved off the other day.
Where they combine all the armors to make the white inferno armor more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Ronin Warriors, that was great.
That's totally
my favorite
dated reference.
My favorite magical girl transformations take place in that show and G Gundam. All right.
Don't mention G Gundam today.
Oh, it's so terrible. It's so bad.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, wait, is that the one? That's the one in like the 80s with each country has its own.
Each country has its own Gundam. So there's the American boxing Gundam. No, is it the football Gundam?
I don't remember.
Wasn't there a Matador Gundam and a football Gundam?
It's like all
the Canadian one's like a lumberjack. And the Russian one wrestles, looks like a bear wrestling Russian guy. It's actually hilariously bad. It's worth watching a little bit of it just to laugh. Oh, it's bad. But the main character, who's a dude, does a magical girl transformation whenever he gets into his Gundam to get into his skin-tight black rubber suit that he drives his Gundam with for some reason.
You need that scene.
And there's always
makes
this
it go faster.
Yeah, this gratuitous ass shot of the main male character whenever he transforms into that. It's my favorite part of the whole show.
They do that when I transform too.
Well, yeah. You just spin around in a circle like Wonder Woman and your new clothes are on.
Yeah.
Which is a giant
thong. It takes you
half
an hour to do your transformation. Nobody got time for that.
Well, but I only do it before I go to bed because that's my thing. I sleep.
You sleep in your sailor
I'm a sleep man. No, I spin around and then I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt. That's
it's just a thong. It's just a mankini. It's just a red, white, and blue American flag mankini that matches your nunchucks of the same.
Well, and the American flag I have tattooed on my chest.
Right. We're off to a terrible start.
Anyways, welcome to View from the Gutters.
Starting over.
We're not starting over. We're gonna go from here. Welcome to View from the Gutters, episode 19, Earth X Redo.
Yeah.
The man who just spoke is Joe Preti. The man who spoke before that is Andrew Chard. Yep. I'm Tobiah Panshin. Next to me is Matt McGinnis. Say hi, Matt.
Hey, everybody.
And down at the end we have Cade Reynolds.
Hello.
I'm not Joe Preti.
Don't start with this.
Do I have to do both sides? Do I have to be me and you?
No. You have to be all of us. Go, Toby. We're going to go on a drink break. We're having a smoke break. You take over.
Okay, I'm just going to be everybody. So, I'm Joe Preti. I like things without really thinking about them. I'm Tobiah Panshin. I hate everything. And I don't know how to caricature.
No, you're disdainful of everything. Chard hates everything.
Yes, I am.
I hate everything.
I don't
like a lot of things.
I have misgivings.
I'm just critical.
Actually, if this was Game of Thrones, I think those would be my house words. I have misgivings.
I have misgivings. I like my house words. I think I'm gonna stick with my house words.
I feel like Toby should be. It wasn't what I expected.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
How did we get back in the weeds? Earth X.
Yeah.
Joe, what did you think about Earth X?
Earth Earth X is probably one of my favorite Marvel books, actually. I think it's a work of love. It's apparent on every page. And every time I read this, my mind is blown at the scope of what they do. And I don't say try to do, I say do because as far as I'm concerned, it's done. Mm-hmm. It's just the justification for the entire Marvel universe, and it's beautiful, and it's
simplicity.
Yeah, it's excellent. It's excellent. It's just one of my favorite things to read.
Yeah, something that I think we say a lot on this podcast is, I wish they had done a few more issues. I wish they had taken it a little bit further. I wish they had done this. I wish. They did not leave anything on the table when it comes to this comic. Everything that it could be, I think it is.
Yeah, there's so much material here. There's so much going on. It's almost too dense to read in one reading, which I think is a strength of the book in a lot of ways. I think that I really enjoy it. It's not my favorite What If story. It's not my favorite Marvel story, but I still really appreciate it for what it does. Yeah. I really like the justification that it gives for the Marvel Universe, and I think it's strong. I think that that to me is not a What If story. Yeah. This is a What If story of how they figure out the justification for the Marvel Universe, but that justification exists in the main Marvel Universe, and I think a lot of writers have taken that to heart and really moved forward with that.
Jonathan Hickman, I think, definitely is running with the Earth X playbook.
Yeah, you see it in S.H.I.E.L.D., which we talked about with the Celestial at the core of the planet. You see it in Eternals. Neil Gaiman picks up on it. Neil Gaiman also kind of gives another justification for the Marvel Universe, and it's that it will always happen, but it will always happen at the time it happens because of Steve Rogers. But I think that he also really understands this, the defense of the Earth is what, the Marvel Universe is all about.
But what I think is really most interesting about this story is that that's only about a quarter of what the book is about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, yeah.
And I'd have to do the list them over in my head a few times if I wanted to peg a specific number on it, but there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the justification of the Marvel Universe and kind of some explanations of some deep background things that nobody had really ever assembled into one coherent vision, but there's a lot more happening because it is a what-if story, very specifically in response to Kingdom Come about kind of, what is a possible future for the Marvel Universe, but it's a deeply existential work. I mean, it's very, very strongly asking the question, if everybody is super, what happens to the superheroes?
Right. Yeah.
How do they define themselves? Do they define themselves? What becomes of them? And there's a lot of characters who you kind of only see tangentially where they've really become nothing because their identity has been completely stripped away from them.
I don't want to get too deep into this right now because I do want to move on to see what Matt and Cade's early initial reactions are. But one thing that it really struck me was when we talk about the difference between Marvel and DC universes, we talk about, or at least I pick up on the fact that in the DC universe, Batman is Batman and not Bruce Wayne. And Superman is Superman and not Clark Kent. But in the Marvel Universe, Peter Parker is not just Spider-Man or Peter Parker. He's both. Both have to exist. And it's a really interesting look at Peter Parker specifically in this book. Is of course he feels lost when there's no need for Spider-Man anymore. It's such a huge part of his identity. But that doesn't go away. He doesn't go move into some cave in Antarctica and pretend to farm in a holodeck like Superman does. He still goes out living his life as Peter Parker.
I think it's really interesting because I think this book is trying to assert that you can flip Spider-Man on his head because his watchword is, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think part of what this is trying to say is with great responsibility comes great power.
And that is
because Spider-Man feels responsible, because Peter Parker feels responsible, he is able to be Spider-Man.
Right.
And when he's stripped of that responsibility, it invalidates a certain part of his personhood, of who he is.
Absolutely.
It's a direct line right in the book.
His direction until he feels the call of duty again. And it's when he feels responsible and when he says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this, and becomes Spider-Man again, that he really becomes a whole person.
Yeah, exactly. Matt, what did you think about it?
Basically, the thing that struck me about it, especially reading the second time through, was just how much of a character study it is on different characters. As I've said many times, I grew up reading DC comics mostly, so I'm not as well versed in the Marvel Universe. But the thing that struck me, like I said, is just that it does such a good job of fleshing out all these characters in such a deep and I hate to say profound, but a profound manner. That as cheesy as it sounds, it makes me feel like I know each one of these characters. And other than Earth X, I've yet to read a book that's made me feel that way. So
and on that note, like I think the strength of the book comes in a lot of ways from making you care about characters you didn't know about before, like grabbing a character like Machine Man or Wolf Man. Wait, is that what? Jonah Jameson's son, right?
Yeah,
and grabbing characters like that and really telling a story that uses them in a way that you care about them, even if you've never heard of them before. Like Identity Crisis really did that for me with Elongated Man, but this book does that. So, I mean, there's great books can do that.
And I think, the thing that I think is brilliant, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was trying to figure out a way to frame this. The thing that I think makes Earth X so brilliant is when I read Identity Crisis, I definitely feel for Ralph Dibny. I definitely feel for him. But I feel as if the story has been constructed precisely for that.
Right.
At no point reading Earth X do I feel that I'm being shepherded anywhere. Do I feel that I'm being corralled? I feel like it's all kind of spread before me, and I'm like, whoa.
It's like an onion, I think. The way that this story is told, you have a story, and the story is revealed to be a lie, and then you find a truth. And then that truth is revealed to be a lie, and underneath that you find a greater truth, and you go down through the layers. Like every single issue, you get a new truth.
Yeah.
That belies the partial truth that preceded it.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazingly well done.
Yeah, it's great writing on a huge level where you can throw someone into a universe this vast and never lose the reader by just continuing to give them those nuggets of information and keep you coming back for more.
Well, and just setting up a world where you're looking at these characters taken to these furthest extremes. It's like, I think one of the most interesting things is the things we hit on before, which is what happens to superheroes when they're not really needed anymore. And I think that's one of the things that makes it. I think there's a realness to this book, even though it's about superheroes, that is very, very compelling. That's what I feel is like. My friend, Brant, who's been on the show before, gave these to me, this and Universe X, and I read it on a flight to New York, and I was like, oh, see what this is all about. And 3 hours later, I had finished it, and I was like, oh my God, I need to read the other ones. It was because the way it was set up was
it's
so
really that compelling.
Yeah, that's just really compelling. How'd you?
Well, there were two things that really stood out to me. Number one being the beards. This book has some epic beards.
There's some epic bearding.
Amazingly epic beards.
Everybody has
incredibly epic beards.
Oh yeah.
Reed Richards, I think, in this book has my absolute favorite Reed Richards moment, where he's with the Thing and he's got Professor X's Cerebro helmet.
Oh God,
and
so good.
He's like, oh, that felt good, and the Thing is like, what? He's like, to stretch again. I haven't done that in years.
He says that felt weird. Yeah. I haven't done that in years, and things like what? And he goes, to stretch, and he goes, yeah, you didn't do anything. And
he's like, no, I stretched my mind.
Yeah, it's just.
To replicate Professor X's mutated, accelerated brain.
Yeah.
That's all telepathic and crazy.
And the other thing is that Black Bolt is a badass.
Yes.
You didn't have to say one word throughout the whole thing.
You can't say a word.
Well, yeah,
exactly. But
he does say
you
one
felt
word.
Right.
You felt as much for him as you did to the other characters, even without him saying anything.
Yeah, there's an incredible amount of pathos in this book, both from Black Bolt, Reed Richards, Steve Rogers, Peter Parker. You feel for these characters because you feel first their defeat, the thing that really brought them to their knees, and then you get to see the thing that gets them back up.
Oh man, I had forgotten how. Thinking back, there are only a few movies. I'm an avid reader, and I've been since I was a kid. And there's only been a few moments that actually really seriously moved me. There's a spoiler alert: Gandalf and the Fellowship of the Rings. when he goes down with the Balrog.
Spoiler alert, it's a comic book movie. It doesn't take.
Yeah, right. There's the ending of the Dark Tower series by... there's actually a few moments in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. And there's the moment where the Red Skull pretty much beats Captain America in this. And you're like...
Yeah.
It's like hard to know what to do with that, because if you have any kind of association, any kind of understanding of what Captain America is, this is the man that doesn't give up. That's why he's Captain America, right? And it's not about patriotism, and it's not about
right. And that's what's so great about this, in the sense that it's an existentialist work, is that Captain America is forced to confront the fact that, he doesn't necessarily represent the American dream. The American dream can change.
Absolutely.
But he's able to come around from that and say the American dream might not be the dream of the American people anymore, but it can still be my dream.
Right.
I can still derive purpose from that, and I can inspire others.
Yeah.
I also think what's really interesting about Captain America's character, not only in this but in the Marvel Universe proper, is that he is so different from everyone else. Like, he is a product of a war machine that, he is super powered to some extent, but in this book, he is the last real human without powers.
Yeah.
Like, he is slightly stronger, slightly faster than an average human. But there are no more average humans anymore.
Yeah.
And it makes him different than everyone else. Everyone else is powered. And once again, in this universe, he's still different from everyone. But he still is able to compel everyone to join and rally with him, even though he's so different from they are.
Because that's Cap's super. I mean, Cap does have a superpower, and it's the ability to inspire. Like any one of us in the Marvel universe are following Cap in the fucking battle. We don't care that we're all frail comic book geeks that can couldn't shoot a gun or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? He is inspiration. He embodies that.
That's the thing, is that he's not the false American spirit. He's not jingoism. He's not the call to patriotism that we've had in recent years, where it's like, if you're not with us, you're against us.
Right.
Like, he's the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
He truly believes, and he can inspire other people to believe.
He inspires empathy in people, too.
Yeah.
Like, you can get behind him because you believe in what he believes, because he believes in what is right for all of us.
He inspires the best in people.
Yeah.
Empathy and understanding. And
regardless of the reader... I lost my thought. I'm sorry, but regardless of the reader, he will inspire something in them.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think one of the things that Kruger does that's really just brilliant to me is the fact that he can break down all these characters and all these. He can do things like answer. It's like, if the Watcher's only supposed to watch, why is he always getting involved? And it's like he's got a perfectly excellent explanation for that, and it doesn't feel contrived, or it doesn't feel like false at all. It's like you believe it in the context in which it's given. It explores Reed Richards not as the head of the Fantastic Four, but like as Reed Richards, as this kind of great intellect, and with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, you get all these character studies kind of thrown in there, which could very easily have distracted from the main story, but don't. Like the fact that he was kind of able to explore each of these characters at their essence and not like have it be distracting to the main story. It's like, it blows my mind. It's like, it's really amazing to me.
It's also...
go ahead, Chard.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's also noteworthy that, he's able to take something like, well, why do Reed Richards and Tony Stark and Captain America, why do they always win? Why do they always come up with the answer? And make that a reason. Like, he's talking about comic books as an entity in that moment, I think, too. It's like, there's a reason why they always win, and I'll give you a reason if you need one, but that's not really important,
Right,
like, the good guys will always win. And then there's another moment in here that's really strong that speaks to the comic book industry as a whole, I think, and that's when Captain America is talking to, I don't remember who he's talking to, but he says their deaths should matter,
Yes,
and it just, like, hit me really hard as a reader of comic books when, people are always coming back, including Bucky as of, recent years. 5 years ago now, but like...
Well, I think more of Barry Allen, but...
Well,
to me, that's like the ultimate, like, useless...
You can name 20 that have come back recently in comic books, both in Marvel and DC, and it's just,
I think that really Earth X is absolutely the perfect capstone for the 90s.
Absolutely, yeah.
Put out in like 99, 2000. And I feel like there was really a streak of nihilism that existed in the 90s of, nothing really matters. We're just going to be big guns and fighting and action.
Image
Comics. No real deeper purpose. And Earth X kind of very boldly says, there is purpose. Comics are meaningful. These actions have consequences, and people care about what happens to these characters.
That's what's brilliant about Uatu and X-51, right? Is like, this is what's really great, is you can take that conversation and magnify it out and apply it to that.
Yeah, I mean, their whole conversation is about, what is the meaning of, what does it mean to be human? What is the meaning of human happiness and sadness, and what
evil
value does human life have?
Yeah.
And Uatu says it has none. It's utterly without meaning.
Right.
And X-51 or Aaron Stack.
Right.
Says no.
Yeah.
He says,
he puts his middle finger up and he rubs it right in Uatu's face.
we gotta post that GIF on the website so people can have that experience.
We're filming this. You know this isn't a
Are we
video
filming
shoot?
it?
No.
God, why am I still dressed?
I'm not dressed.
Yeah, well, Matt was naked. Why did you think that was okay?
I think Earth X is the perfect transition between the 90s and the last decade of comics.
Absolutely.
And where it's gone to the point that we've arrived at today.
Mm-hmm.
I think, go ahead.
All I was going to say is kind of riffing off what you guys are talking about is we really need to give Marvel some credit for letting this happen.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because at the time that it came out, nothing like it was going on.
Absolutely,
and to allow such a maxi series like this, which seems to be almost a risk because just nothing like that was going on, is rare. It was a big step, especially for a company that was just coming back from bankruptcy and things like that.
Well,
so
exactly.
It's really interesting because Earth X was written specifically in response to Kingdom Come. DC did Kingdom Come. Yeah. Marvel teamed up with Alex Ross in Wizard, and they did what if Alex Ross imagined Kingdom Come in the Marvel universe?
Yeah, what would the Marvel universe look like in 30 years is the question they asked him.
And so they put this out, and it was wildly successful. They re-released it as the Earth X sketchbook, a standalone issue, which sold ridiculously well, and they're like, okay, well, we have to do a series.
Yeah.
So Earth X is really, in a sense, a sequel to Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
And I think in a certain sense, Kingdom Come is a little bit of a tighter story. But I think Earth X is ultimately the more influential one. I think that the consequences of Earth X have had greater ramifications through the Marvel universe than Kingdom Come has in the DC universe.
Well, now, especially when they've retconned the DC universe, but Kingdom Come used to leak into the DC universe little by little. They would do that Kingdom Come, or they would do a JSA story that explored the possible alternate future of the JSA, and it was pretty much Kingdom Come, right?
A couple of years before the reboot, they had Gog and Magog showed up. They had a couple of people from the Kingdom Come future come to the
and I think that was
universe.
the GASA miniseries called Thy Kingdom Come. And so they've definitely done that.
Red Robin, who is a current character in DC, originally showed up in Kingdom Come.
Right. Yeah. And so it's kind of leaked in here and there, but I think that none of the character designs from this book have really showed up in the DC universe, or in the Marvel universe proper. No real character development has led it towards this way. In fact, there's a lot of character development that has led it away from Earth X. But the ideas, the feel of the Marvel universe was really heavily shaped.
Oh,
by
absolutely.
This book. And what we've talked about with Hickman and other writers drawing really heavily from this influence.
Basically everything that's been done with the Celestials since this, I think, has been at least in some way influenced by it.
Yeah, including the Eternals,
which is great. I love. There's a scene in the Eternals that's amazing where the Eternals have awakened and they're hanging out and Iron Man goes to see them and he's like, well, there's a board you have to register if you're super powered beings, you have to register. And the head Eternal is like, if you saw a group of children fighting on the playground, would you pick sides?
Yeah, it's like we were here a million years before you were born, and we'll be here a million years later.
And it's like Tony Stark's like, no, and they're just like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
that's probably one of the three best telling offs of Tony Stark.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, basically, like, this is the big kids table. Like,
go sit at your little.
The thing that really bothered me the most about Gaiman's Eternal series is that he did this thing where the Celestials have this really weird way of speaking where some of the words don't like translate exactly correctly, so it like presents three kind of words that have similar meanings that you can kind of triangulate information from, and other authors have tried to do it since then, and they sucked at it. And that's what bothered me, is that Gaiman did a really great job with it, and everybody else since then has tried to do it and failed terribly, including Hickman, I believe.
Well, Hickman did it. Hickman did it in S.H.I.E.L.D., and it didn't. I didn't catch it like being like bad. But
like they were they'll present like three different words that are synonyms,
right,
rather than three different words that have similar meanings but don't quite line up.
In Hickman, in S.H.I.E.L.D., he gives. I think I don't remember 3, but I do remember him giving like 2 options, and sometimes they were fairly conflicting. So I think Hickman probably picked up on a little bit better. A lot of people. Hickman's pretty out there as far as his writing goes. If you've read any of his other stuff, you know
I don't know. I mean, I think Neil Gaiman. One of the things that, although I was talking to somebody about this, and I'm probably going to get death threats from like the 5 people that listen about this, but I'm kind of. Neil Gaiman needs to switch it up, because I was not overly impressed by his Doctor Who episode, and I remember a time when everything I read by him, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is totally unexpected.
So it's not at all possible that you're not 15 anymore?
No, because I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan. I didn't read The Sandman until I was like 19 or 20, or even older than that. I think I was maybe in my early 20s. And it blew my mind, and The Eternals I thought was really good. And I think one of the things he's really good at is kind of conveying these.
I think at this point, Neil Gaiman is one of those people like Warren Ellis, where you go to them looking for something specific, and it's not their fault if you don't get something different.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation. I disagree with that. I think Warren Ellis has a style of writing, but I don't ever feel that I've picked up something and been like, oh, that's what I expect from Warren Ellis.
There's been a lot of things where I picked up and going, okay, this is exactly the note that Warren Ellis likes to hit. Like, he has one bell, he likes to ring it a lot. Sometimes he does something more interesting, sometimes he puts out Ocean. And I don't blame him for that.
Battlefields, too, or is that...
No, that's
Ennis. Okay,
like, I don't blame Warren Ellis because he's writing a Warren Ellis story. I don't blame Neil Gaiman because he's writing a Neil Gaiman story. You either like and appreciate that and go, okay, that was good. That was more of what I expect from this person. You don't go, oh, well, Neil Gaiman wrote a story that's very much like the 6 stories he wrote before that. Now I fucking hate him for it.
Well, no, but that's not what I'm saying, though. I'm saying that I think there's a such thing as nuance. I don't think you can just like gloss over that and like throw that out the window. Like Warren Ellis doesn't have one bell. He has a lot of different bells. They may all be in the same like tonal range, but there's hundreds of bells there. I've never felt I feel completely different about Planetary than I do about Transmet. I love them both equally.
I feel very similar about them. I think that those are 2 of the works where he's the best, and I think that he manages to hit notes that he doesn't normally hit in each of them. But then there's also a lot of things that he's put out where it's like, wow, I've totally seen this from you before.
Have you read Orbiter?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So, Orbiter and Planetary, both by Warren Ellis, completely different. I encourage you to check out Orbiter.
I'll check out.
And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that.
Well, he has.
What I'm saying is, I read the first issue of Black Summer, and I could project in my mind exactly how this story was going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I feel like most of the Avatar line is like shit Warren Ellis is writing when he's not writing like serious shit.
But I mean, like he wrote Gravel, right?
Yes.
That's him too.
Black,
I feel like that
Strange Kisses, which is it's completely different from his other shit and really weird.
Well, I like Gravel. To me, is like hugely different from everything he's done except for Hellblazer.
Well, yeah,
basically, it's Hellblazer stories he wanted to tell, but they wouldn't let him. Well, they wouldn't let him tell those stories, and he just wrote his own series. So, in a way, it's like, I expected that to be derivative of Hellblazer, but I feel like it's really different than a lot of the other stuff he's written. I mean, tonally, it's similar in the fact that like he has a heavy hand with darkness. I would say that, but it's not nearly as heavy as some other writers that love to just like lay on the darkness gore wheel and just.
I think that there's some writers who are more samey from work to work than others. Bendis gets this a lot with his Bendis speak, where all the characters sound exactly the same and they have the smarmy patter. And you pick up something even with no name on it, you be like, I guarantee you that this is Brian Michael Bendis. And other writers are better at changing it up. But I think ultimately every writer develops a style, and you can't blame them for writing in that style.
No, I think that they definitely develop a style. What I think separates really great writers from some mediocre writers is they understand their audience. Yeah. So Bendis's Marvel stuff is all going to be very similar. Well, it's because it's well received by most of his fans. But Powers is a lot different than his Marvel stuff, and the crime fiction stuff like Goldfish and Jinx that he's written before
is amazing.
Is a lot different. I think he just found an audience at Marvel that likes that likes the talking head Marvel comic.
I think part of it is that sometimes he cares and sometimes he doesn't. I thought that his Ultimate Spider-Man stuff has always been really good, where his writing on the Avengers was really awful. And now he's writing all new X-Men, which is it's really, really good. It's not what I expected from him at all. Like I walked into it expecting it to be bad, and it's not. It's good.
I just want to let everybody know that he was going to say amazing.
I was going to say amazing, and I try and make myself not say it because I overuse it.
I will say it. I am now going to use it twice as much.
To make up for the lack of amazing. We do have a quotient we need to make.
The funny thing about that is that Warren Ellis actually guest stars in an episode of Powers.
Yeah,
I've always thought that was like hilarious.
Well, he's the writer that
he's the
that
ride along
in with them. Yeah, he's the ride along in the cup car.
And pretty sure he dies at the end. Spoiler.
I don't remember. It's one issue.
Yeah, it's one issue.
He's a throwaway
character. But
I thought he just quit his writing job. I don't remember what it was, but I haven't read Powers in years.
Yeah, I haven't. I need to.
I think that's what sets Bendis apart is like, his Avengers stuff was very talking heads, and it did what it did, and it really built on that quippy nature of Spider-Man that he developed in Ultimate Spider-Man. But I think it went in a little bit of a different direction. I felt like the drop in quality wasn't as big as a lot of people say it was, but I enjoyed the Avengers stuff. But I think that he's definitely written better things. Ultimate Spider-Man being my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when he's on, he's really on.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with every writer.
And it may be just Marvel asking him to do too much, and he has too many books on his plate, and quality stuff is because of it. And you can't really blame him for that, I suppose.
Can we blame Jeff Johns?
We can blame
someone
who's not responsible.
Actually, I've decided to widen the scope a little bit, and we can blame Jim Lee and Bob Harris as well, because fuck those guys.
Yeah, they are the editor-in-chiefs at Marvel. You're correct.
Yeah, no, totally. And this is the thing.
Can we not just blame someone whose fault it is, like Quesada or?
We can blame Quesada. Actually, fuck that guy too. Sorry.
And specifically by that is that I think Jeff Johns is one of those people where if he had one comic book to write,
he'd be great.
You can even. I was gonna say you can tell when he's writing, say, 4 books.
Yeah,
you know which book he likes, which book he's really writing.
Mm-hmm. And it's not Justice League. Just letting everybody know that, right? Just letting everybody know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time, I remember when he was writing was Blackest Night, and Green Lantern was significantly better than the Blackest Night miniseries, and I think it's just because he was writing like 3 or 4 books at that time.
I think it's funny too because I thought the stuff he was trying to do with the Flashes was interesting. And
I think that if you just gave Jeff Johns one comic and you called it Hal Jordan, The Adventures of the Greatest Guy in the Universe, out of continuity from everything else.
Well, it would have to
I think that Jeff Johns would be happy. I think that the audience would be happy.
I think it'd have to be Hal Jordan, Barry Allen, like a team-up buddy story.
I tell you what the thing is this, right? Like, Jeff Johns grew up reading Hal Jordan and Barry Allen, and that's all well and good and everything, and he wanted to write stories about those characters. So the first thing he did when he was in a position to was bring them back. That's fine. It is going to fail. It is failing already. They are bleeding new talent. Nobody fucking wants to read them. And that's good. It makes me, like, the Schadenfreude is seriously at 11 for me, like, right now. I point and laugh at my computer screen, even if I'm all alone, right? This is, like, the level of fucking hatred I have right now. And it's not because it's like I said, it's not because I bear them any ill will. It's because they're destroying things that I love.
Well, yeah. They came into a universe that they thought was subpar, but it's the universe, this is the DC universe that we grew up on.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm going back and reading Grant Morrison and Mark Waid's run on JLA right now, and I'm fucking loving it in the same way that I loved it
Why
before.
do you have to destroy the DC universe we love so you can bring back the DC universe that you love?
Which was inferior. It was an inferior fucking universe. I'm sorry. It was. Nobody cares about it. Nobody sits at home and going, I really wish Barry Allen was the Flash again. And you can tell that because the guy they're calling Barry Allen in the Flash right now isn't fucking Barry Allen.
Well, I mean, they're writing modern comics about people who modern comics were never written about. So, I mean, they might as well have just called Barry Allen, like Fred Savage or whatever.
I can't call Fred Savage either.
Just whatever.
Might as well just call him Speedy Gonzalez.
Just call him
Nobody's ever been named that.
Fred Butthole, and Fred Butthole can be the new Flash because he's as similar to the Barry Allen from the Silver Age as this Barry Allen is to the Barry Allen.
Absolutely.
I have to say this, and this is a complete tangent, I know. I saw the preview for Earth 2 Batman today, and it looks fucking awful. They took Batman and they glued glow-in-the-dark stickers all over him. It looks fucking terrible.
Why would you do that?
Why would you even look at that?
Why would you put glow-in-the-dark stickers on a guy who hides in
the shadows?
Because
he's not going to a rave.
Because you put Jim Lee in charge of your creative design.
If he's going undercover at a rave, then he's got a great costume.
It's like Joel Schumacher's
I feel like
new Batman.
I feel like
only Batman.
It's like
Joel Schumacher.
It would be like the people at Ford being like, "We need a new idea. We need a new powerful idea for a new age. You know what we're going to bring in? John fucking DeLorean, right?" It's like, no, because that would be a huge step backwards, right? Like nobody wants that car. That car came out. Nobody fucking wanted it. Go forward. Find somebody new. Don't put Jim Lee in charge of anything, because Jim Lee was great 20 years ago, but now he's been surpassed many times over.
Well,
One thing I wanted to mention specifically about the Marvel Universe and the heads of the Marvel Universe and the direction in which they're doing their enterprise. This is going back to Earth X as well as a slight side to what we were just talking about.
No, bring us back to Earth X. Please, bring us back to Earth X.
Bring it. Yeah, go, please. I apologize for yelling.
Some of the scenes in Earth X are the exact same as in the new Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. Specifically the flashback ones, because that's where they're talking about the origins, which were what the movies were. But the movies followed this so closely, and I even felt more closely than they did to the original origins.
Yeah.
That they went off the origins that they mentioned in Earth X.
Well, again, this is just an era thing, talking about Barry Allen or talking about, whatever. And it's Barry Allen became the Flash in one panel. Flash, in whenever they reboot, in Showcase number 8 or whatever. And very similarly, Iron Man became Iron Man in a series of very few panels, where Earth X took a little bit more time with it and expanded on it and was able to tell a more modern origin. It's probably a more definitive origin, you're right, than the original.
Yeah, but it's so meaningful that is what the filmmakers did.
Yeah. I think they saw some of the real intelligence in that storytelling again, and they were able to really draw on that. I think it just goes to show how much people at Marvel respect Earth X. These things keep coming back.
Well, I think I think they're. I think it's important to do that though, because I think it gives you a basis.
Mm-hmm.
There was one thing I did not like about Earth X, and that was how many 2-page splash pages there were. Because the splash page is amazing when it's very well done, but when you overuse it as much as Earth X did, I felt that it detracted a little bit from the content.
What I thought was really interesting about them is they're not all splash pages.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just turn the comic book format on its side. You still get panels, they're just tall and thin rather than
exactly.
a box.
You're getting 5 panels, they're just
across the entire 2 pages. So I still felt like they probably was overused and I noticed it, but at the same time, it feels really fluid because they're not a splash page. It doesn't just interrupt progress in a way that, like, if you're reading a 9-panel page and you flip to a splash page, it just, like, floors you with, like, how different it was from the previous page. But in Earth X, it all felt like flowing in a way to me.
I was gonna say
it did, and like I said, it didn't completely detract from the story, but it was noticeable.
I can see that. I kind of felt like it was like pools and streams. Like you go through this stream and it's going pretty quick, and then you hit a splash page and it's like a pool, and you just stop right there and you look at it before you continue on with the story.
I feel like it was. I've always enjoyed it because I feel like you're there with Aaron Stack. He's getting so much information at once. Like, all these images are flooding into him at once, and all this information is flooding into him at once. And the way they convey that, I thought was really novel. I mean, that's how I've always taken it.
Yeah, we didn't really hit this too much earlier, but the art in this is really good.
Oh, God.
The strength of the work.
John Paul Leon, I think his name is.
Also, maybe somebody else knows this off the top of their head. Was Valkyrie a character before this?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, because I've always really liked the girl Thor character design for this.
Oh, yeah, no.
And it's like, I didn't read Marvel for a while after this. And when I came back, Valkyrie was showing up in, like, Avengers and some other random things. And I was like, did they create that character in response to this? Like, hey, it's girl Thor. Or was she already in existence?
I don't remember.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll have an answer for your short name.
Two things that off of both of those comments, I want to get back to them. I'll go with Toby's first, and then I'll get back to Cade, because I want to talk about that too. But the thing that I noticed this time, talking about Girl Thor, is how many really strong female characters there are in the book, and how many just, like, interesting female characters there were that we didn't get to see any more of. Like Venom, who's really interesting, May Parker, we didn't get to see a whole lot of, and Iron Maiden, we didn't get to see a ton. Like, there's so many characters that he created, so many female characters that were created, that I really want to see more characters.
And the full story behind Clea, who took over from Doctor Strange.
Exactly.
I really wanted to know what was happening with that, but, you know, like we said, it's just a lot of nuggets of information.
I think that Ross was really smart, and when he was just doing his sketch character designs, you know, what will the Marvel Universe look like in 30 years? It's interesting that he added so many more female characters than were there before, because now, you know, 10, 15 years after this work, we're already seeing that adding female characters into comic books is something that everybody is clamoring for. So I think that Alex Ross was kind of very forward-looking in that aspect.
Yeah.
But also, getting back to Cade's point, I didn't notice the splash pages the first time I read the book. They felt much more integrated, and I think it's because the first time I read the book, I read it in physical format. I read it as a book format. Joe actually just lent me his. But this time I read it digitally, and so reading it on the iPad is like, you notice when there's a splash page because you have to turn the panel, where like in a book it doesn't feel like that. It flows so much more. So I think that I definitely noticed the splash pages more this time, so my attention was really heavily drawn to them.
I guess the other thing is I'm used to single-issue comics where, you know, every other page is an advertisement, so when there's a splash page, it's not only noticeable, but it's, you know, it's meant to feel like an epic thing.
Yeah.
And this one, it was just like splash page, next page is a splash page, 2 pages later there's another splash page.
It's kind of like when you see an artist who doesn't use a lot of different panel breakdown, when they're always kind of using the grid or a 9-panel grid or a 6-panel grid or something, and then they'll throw a diagonal panel in there, you know, like one time. Like, it has so much effect, where in an artist who does use a lot of abnormal panel design, like, you kind of, it doesn't have them as much effect as it does, you know, because you're just seeing it all the time. It's hard to kind of get that.
Joe looked up Valkyrie on his iPhone and handed it to me. Valkyrie had her own series, first issue, January 97.
Does that say 97?
No, this is definitely from the freaking 90s.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And her outfit is god fucking awful. Like, this is
She looks like she should be the lead singer of, like, a glam pop metal band.
She looks like fucking Lita Ford
That actually
by
is
way
the
of heavy
story.
metal.
Yeah.
Like, this is a god. You need to look up Valkyrie #1 to see how terrible this cover is.
It's pretty bad. This one is much better. This next
Well, yeah,
one is better.
the later series, they kind of do draw more on the design of this book, I think. Because that original one doesn't... She doesn't even look like female Thor in that original.
No.
Not
Well,
at
but
all.
she's not, is she?
Well, no, I mean, like, she doesn't look like she's supposed to be a female Norse
Right, no, totally.
character,
totally.
right? Where in this book, it's like, it is female Thor. But then the modern comics, Valkyrie is just a female Norse character. So.
Totally. So her first appearance was actually in the Avengers number 83, December of 1970.
Wow. Okay.
So she's been around for a while. Alter ego is Brunhilde, of course.
Of course.
Because how could it be anything else?
Well,
Thank you, Richard Wagner.
yeah.
Yeah, right. But, yeah, it's created by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. I think I'm saying that right. Buscema? Buscema?
I know it was Buscema.
It's
Yeah.
SC, which in Italian is normally the sh sound, but I could be wrong. And if anybody wants to correct me,
I'm pretty sure that this is the podcast where we say everybody's name wrong.
Totally.
We definitely do that.
Yeah.
Just ask Mike Mignolia.
That's true. Ty Boya. Wait.
All
Uh,
right, Cade, you want anything more to... You were talking, I feel like, before we cut you off.
Oh no, I hit upon the most important things: the beards, the
beards.
badassness of Black Bolt, and how you made the
You guys
characters feel.
can't see it, but he has a giant checklist and written in all block
And
letters.
it
his
really,
beards.
he brought in graphs, but we were like,
Cade, we're not recording. We're not filming.
we're
I
not
don't know.
filming. We are filming
Uh,
for a different site, though.
He didn't bring those in. We're joking.
It's called
Can't use my PowerPoint presentation on beards.
This is actually specifically in response to what I've been doing at work recently, but fuck PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Fuck it up its stupid ass.
It does have a very stupid ass. And let me tell you something. You buy a couple drinks and you're in.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard, anyways.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great character designs in this. Hulk especially, and Colossus.
Yeah.
I love Colossus. I really do.
Oh God, the mustache! That great
the
I
mustache.
love the
Awesome.
split Hulk
So this
where
is.
it's
I
like
have a question for
literally
everybody.
the two parts of Hulk are different entities. I loved that.
I thought it was interesting, but as a Hulk fan, I'm like, I just want regular Hulk punching
Yeah,
guys.
it's really
Yeah,
got
right?
nothing to do with the
yeah.
mainstream Hulk. But
No,
I thought it was really cool. Like one person in two bodies.
Yeah.
Well, I think it does. I mean, this is like
Well,
the
it's-
Hulk is like the ape brain, right? He's like
Yeah.
all he cares about is smash and run away and then smash some more.
Oh, and also the fact that they mention the Peter David retcon of the Hulk in here.
Yeah.
Where it's like the Hulk is a manifestation of Banner's childhood
Yeah.
repressed anger. I hate that. I hate like everything except for Future Perfect. I've said this like a billion times on this show, but everything except for Future Perfect that Peter David wrote. I really
like Smart Hulk. I think Smart Hulk is much more interesting to me. I
But
think
it's-
dumb. I think like Hulk Smash Hulk has to be written in a very specific way.
Well, he's not dumb. He's just angry.
Well, but he's
you
not
know?
smart. He's cunning. There's a difference.
Well, and also, he's like Conan, right? Like, Conan isn't super intelligent when he starts any battle. The reason that he gains more intelligence is the fact that he lives through things that normal people can't.
Well, yeah, but
And that's the same thing as Hulk, is he's never going to die. So he's only going to get smarter as Hulk goes along through each battle, through each confrontation. And, like, that's what makes Hulk interesting to me, is, like, he's not learning at the same rate as a genius like Bruce Banner would learn. And Banner is miles ahead of Hulk, but Hulk does have some intelligence. He does learn things. He does get smarter. He is good at what he does, which is punch things. I don't know. I think Hulk is a fantastic character. And I
think
hate
it's actually a really interesting comparison, Hulk and Conan.
Yeah, well, it's one of my favorite character archetypes is the guy who's like, he's not brilliant. It's Hellboy is the same way. He's not brilliant, but the fact his resilience is what makes him intelligent.
I like the Hellboy Conan thing because I've always thought of like Conan as like the James Bond of barbarians.
He's not.
But I don't think James Bond is especially smart or anything. I just think he's exceptionally good at what he does.
True, like James Bond does. And I'm rereading all the books right now because I do it like every year, and I love them. But like Bond is smart, but he also does get lucky a lot.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, I think Conan does too, though.
isn't really lucky. He's just tough.
Well, I think it amounts to the same thing.
Yeah, sure. It's that, Deus Ex Machina or whatever that like saves Conan from, or James Bond, or Hellboy, or Hulk from these situations, and they get smarter because of it.
I don't necessarily. I think I've run into problems with that analogy because you can't kill the Hulk.
Exactly. He'll only get smarter. And that's why in Future Imperfect it makes so much sense that he's the maestro.
I mean, I guess it's like a 30-year-old spoiler.
Yeah,
spoiler. 30-year-old spoiler.
Okay, I don't think I'd say spoiler for that. But they've used him in the modern Marvel Universe recently, too, so I feel like everyone should know that. But anyway.
I like Hulk. I just think that Hulk is a character that, to be interesting to me, needs to be written in an interesting way. I don't find anything
the same could be said about all characters, but like I think that what Hulk does that is annoying is when people write him as just like, just Hulk smash, Hulk dumb, fire bad. Like he's that bothers me. But like in Planet Hulk, when you see him be cunning, in Great Hulk stories, when you see him like very gain the upper hand, he's not outsmarting anyone, but he's gaining the upper hand by doing something.
I hate it when they write Captain America as a flag-waving, jingoist asshole.
I don't think
there's good interpretations and bad interpretations of
absolutely.
I think, and especially for a character that's been around for as long as either of those characters have been.
Absolutely.
Like, there's going to be characterizations that we don't like, and I don't love the characterization in Hulk X, but it doesn't detract from the story in any way. I don't feel any interest in that character in the same way that I feel an interest towards Daredevil, who's a character that I like in the Marvel Universe proper, but he's never been my favorite character. He's just a character that I enjoy.
I mean, you have the right to be wrong about that.
I think there's a lot of characters that have never been my favorite characters until the right person comes along and makes them awesome. I didn't give two toots about Iron Fist until Fraction Brubaker came along and made him great.
Once again, Iron Fist, a guy that can punch through iron beams. Like, what's not cool about that? I don't know. I was a Marvel kid growing up, and it's funny because my favorite characters were characters like Iron Fist, who was fucking like.
Well, that's the thing. Like Iron Fist was very much like Booster Gold, and I don't just mean because he had the Warlock collar. Like,
oh no, he totally had the Warlock collar.
He did totally have the Warlock collar, but it was like there's a couple of money grubbing asshole characters.
Yeah.
Because Iron Fist was the Heroes for Hire guy, and then Fraction Brubaker came along and tied him to this mythology that had never existed before.
Yeah.
Well, it had, but only in the abstract. Yeah. I mean, Fraction fleshed it out, which is what...
Was he ever the immortal weapon?
Yeah, I mean...
Like, in the same sense.
What is it? The fighting the dragon and stuff, that's established.
Fighting the dragon, yes, but the seven cities of heaven, I don't think was ever a thing.
Right, and the idea that there's always
I don't know if there were seven cities of heaven, but the city that he went to fight the dragon.
Specifically, but the expanded mythology with they've never gone into the history of the Iron Fists before. As far
I don't know.
I don't think there have ever been that many mentions.
But it's like, I think that's what I mean. I think it existed in the. They never said it wasn't like that. They're just. I think that's what made it good.
Nobody had ever talked about it.
Yeah,
and they basically added all of this material.
Yeah, which I think was why. And it's like, oh wait, so when you expand upon a character's background and their mission, they become more interesting. Oh my God, that's amazing! I did not know that.
Like I never really liked the Hulk until Planet Hulk came along.
Right,
and made him awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you just need the right writer.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we see that in in every medium too. Like,
absolutely.
Genres don't really take hold.
Well, most of television is.
Yeah. Well, all right.
So does that do it for Earth X? Have we given it a proper shape?
I do want to say one thing. I want to say that as much as I like this book, I don't think, for those of you listening that are waiting for our recommendation, if you are not familiar with the Marvel Universe, and if you're just starting in comic books, wait. Do not read this right off the bat, because you will not be able to follow it, and it might even put you off. I mean, it's worth waiting for. Read a few other things.
I would say make this the 12th thing that you read 11 other things.
Read 11 other things.
Get into find out about the Fantastic Four, find out about the Avengers, find out about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then come and read
Well, and I think if you're coming from it from you've seen all the movies and you are a fan of literary comics like what we always call literary comics, like Sandman and Swamp Thing and Lucifer and Vertigo stuff. Like if you're coming at it from that side and you are more interested in very dense stories, very very literary comics and existential comics. I think that if you know that and you know enough about the Marvel characters, meaning you've seen the movies or, the cartoons or whatever, like, I think that you'll find something that you enjoy here, but I do think that this book really benefits from a knowledge of the Marvel Universe.
Also,
Absolutely.
read it twice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Read it once, wait, say a week, and then read it again.
Yeah.
Or a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least a week is what I'm saying.
I just think it's very much, it's a lot to take in at once, and if you don't know, if you're unfamiliar with the characters, it'll mean less to you, I think. So do what you can to kind of achieve that understanding, and then read it, and realize that it's good to take breaks. Don't feel like you need to like mainline this like I do.
When I read Watchmen, I read it all in one sitting. But when I bought it, it was recommended to me to read an issue every day.
Yeah,
and
which is how I think you should read.
With a dense book like this, I don't see any problem with reading an issue every day or a couple issues every day.
I think I read about 2 issues a day.
Yeah,
I think you want to keep it around there, and you definitely So this is not beginner stuff. This is I would say intermediate.
Well, and I think it's a necessary read for all long-term fans of Marvel.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think there definitely comes a point where every fan of superhero comics should read this.
Absolutely, and that's the flip. For those of you who are listening and are comic fans and are familiar with the Marvel Universe and do love Spider-Man, Captain America, the Avengers, whatever, then I think this becomes a must read for you, and you definitely want to struggle through it, even if it's not, because I think it will improve your understanding and appreciation of those characters.
And it's going to inform a lot of things that have come after that.
Absolutely, and it'll give you, the nice thing is that even if you've come in after and you're just been reading Marvel in the last 2 or 3 years, this will give you a really good foundation in the Marvel Universe, even coming from after the fact.
Yeah.
So I think this comes highly recommended from all of us.
So, are we ready to do recommendations?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Joe?
Well, hold on a second, because we're doing something a little bit different this week. We've been talking for a while about kind of the ongoing conversation that's happening in the comic community, especially on the internet, about the place of women, both as characters in comics and as readers of comics.
And as women creators.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. And so something that we wanted to do is have a special episode where we step off of the mics and bring on some of our female friends and have them talk in our place and get some of their perspective. So what we're going to do is we've each brought a book like normal. We're going to pick one just like normal. We're going to have them read it. The next episode will be 4 female comic readers talking about the book that we pick and bringing their own books to recommend. They will select a book amongst themselves, and we will read that for the episode following.
Right.
Correct.
Which promises to be interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun format change and
absolutely.
something that we should definitely do, and it's a debate that's ongoing, and it should be on. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's something that's important. Is the female presence in comics?
Yeah.
And I think that it's been too long overshadowed by this male heavy-handed writers and male gazeness of comics from the 90s and 80s. And
absolutely. And I think whereas the creating of comics has been, the internet has done a good job democratizing that, women readers are still kind of, I feel like for the most part, especially in the genre that is near and dear to a lot of our hearts, superheroes, they're marginalized at best. And that's it'll be interesting to get
Not just marginalized, but often ill-treated.
well,
Yes.
I mean the term fridging comes to mind.
Well, yeah, and I think the female fans are often ill-treated as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they're
Definitely
not opened into the community with warm enough arms. I never understood the idea that if you like something, that you should try to keep that from everyone else. It's like if someone likes the thing that you like, then by all means you should welcome them in with open arms. If someone's wearing a Green Lantern t-shirt, your first question shouldn't be like accusatory. You should be like, why are you really a fan? Well, what's Hal Jordan's middle name? What's Hal Jordan's mom's dog's brother's name?
Your fandom is not as good as mine.
No, they like something that you like. You should automatically be interested in what they have. You know,
I personally think your first question should be, who's your favorite? And if they say Hal Jordan, don't talk to them anymore. And if they say anybody else, you say, oh, have you read this?
Oh, perfect, Joe. That's exactly what I was talking about. I totally meant,
and I'm totally going to steal Joe's thunder real quick. It's been really great to go over to his house recently because his girlfriend has been getting into comics at the same time that his 11-year-old daughter has been getting into comics. And so it's been a lot of fun to go over there and recommend things to them and hear their reactions to them.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's women in comics and women in superhero comics has become a subject near and dear to my heart because of that. Because not just, my girlfriend, but my 11-year-old who, I want her to have a strong foundation in this because this is, this is my I love this. I love comics. And so it's been interesting kind of introducing them to it, but I think it's been a lot of fun too, and I think I'm looking forward to it because my girlfriend will be one of the ladies at Ladies Night.
If you listen to our Emerald City bonus episode, the two ladies who joined us, Kirby, Joe's girlfriend, and our other friend Kaylee, are going to be two of the women who are going to be on next episode.
All right. They both got some really great ideas.
So, Joe, what are you proposing the ladies read?
Bomb Queen by, I think it's Jimmy Robinson.
It is.
And he writes and pencils, and I think it's... I think it does... I think its attitude towards male gaziness and stuff is very similar to Adam Warren in Empowered, where it's kind of like... It's published by Image, and I think it's kind of like, hey, remember when Image used to do this? And it's about a villain named the Bomb Queen who basically runs this city and like a villain does, and she doesn't take shit from anybody. And I think it's hilarious. I think it's a great time, and I think it really it draws attention to the fact that that male gaze is a huge issue, and that you have these women running around in ridiculous fucking costumes.
There's lots of TNA.
There's lots of TNA,
but it knows it. It knows it in the same way that King City knew it.
It's very self-aware.
It is absolutely self-aware, and Jimmy Robinson's a great guy. I got to talk to him a few years ago at Comic-Con, and he totally knows what he's doing. And I think where it really hits home for me is it's fun to read. Which I think comics should be. I think you can read provocative comics and you can read thoughtful comics, but I think that you should be able to turn to something and be like, I had a blast reading this. It made me laugh, and that's Bomb Queen. So I'm interested to see what not me has to say about that, and not Toby either, because I know what he'll say about it. Actually, he liked it, which is weird for me. I'm kind of...
Did I? I remember reading it, and I don't remember if I liked it or not.
Okay. We're going to leave that one alone.
Misgivings.
I probably
like,
have misgivings.
If Joe liked it... I think I just enacted my house words, which are, now you fucked up.
Yeah.
All right.
I definitely did.
So I had quite a bit of difficulty coming up with what I wanted to bring, because I wanted to bring something by a female creator, and looking through the list of comics that I have that I could bring a physical copy with me, it was actually a really, really short list. There were only 3 things on it, one of which I recommended already, and another of which somebody else has already brought. And the third one, I don't have a copy. I would have loved to bring Saga, which is drawn by the...
Oh, you could have borrowed mine.
No, well, it's drawn by Fiona Staples, who is an incredibly good artist.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
So I called an audible, and I brought something that's just good, and which I was surprised, looking through the archives, nobody has actually officially recommended before, even though we've talked about it a lot, which is All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly.
One of the most important women in the field. I'm sorry.
Grant Morrison?
Grant Morrison.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure, why not?
He's a giant in the field.
Also has some sweet tits.
Oh,
let
God.
me just say.
Oh, yeah, Grant Morrison?
Grant Morrison.
Beautiful.
So if you have not listened to any of these episodes before or don't know anything about it, All-Star Superman is kind of it was during a run of DC Comics where they were doing all-star editions where it was kind of supposed to be the iconic version of a character. And so this is Grant Morrison kind of taking on the iconic Superman. It's kind of the life and adventures, the life and death of Superman, where he's taking on 12 ultimate tasks before he ultimately dies. Honestly, I think it's the best Superman story that's ever been written. It's the best Superman story that I've ever read, certainly. I recommended it to Joe's girlfriend a while ago, and she said it's the comic that made her like superheroes.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, before she read it, she did not like them. and this got her into it. And I transitioned her from All-Star Superman to Invincible, and I think that was a really good move since she's really grabbed onto Invincible really hard.
She likes Invincible. I thought Invincible was first, and then
she read like the first volume of Invincible.
I think she
and then
read
All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
I'm not going to claim a specific order of events, but it was a really important work, and I think it's a really important work for everybody to read, to understand superheroes. Kind of coming at it around from the other direction of Earth X, where Earth X is very serious and plotting and deconstructionist. Superman is deconstructionist, but in a lighthearted, fun, fast-paced, woo adventures and fun times and craziness happens, but with an intelligent kind of not a 10-foot gaze, but not a 100-foot gaze. Like it's very kind of middle ground. Like let's look at this character in kind of his totality, from his early adventures in the Golden Age to the modern era, and create this kind of weird, iconic fusion of the character throughout the ages.
Yeah, it's Superman in the micro. It's Superman in the macrocosm.
It's Superman throughout his history, all rolled into one character.
Yeah. I really enjoy this work too. It's not my favorite Superman, but it is so important in the canon of Superman. It is one of the most important Superman books I've ever written.
It makes me a little bitter though, because Batman got Frank Miller and Jim Lee, and one of the worst superhero comics.
I just hate Frank Miller's depiction of Batman overall.
Yeah,
like
except for year one. I mean,
year one is good, and not because of Frank Miller.
Exactly.
Or Batman.
I was going to say, it's not
a Batman story.
It is not a Batman story.
There's a whole other conversation.
You can go back and listen to our other podcasts, but
read Batman
it's about
year one, and don't read the words, just look at the pictures.
Yeah,
read the words.
I think that something that's really nice about this Superman work too is it is an alternate take of the end of Superman. Like there are so many different DC looks at like how does this character end? Like where does he go when he's done? And Alan Morris tackled it, and Mark Waid and Alex Ross tackled it in Kingdom Come, and there's just been a lot of different interpretations of like what happens to this character, and I think that this is one of the most important ones.
I would agree with that completely.
I think that you really have to read this to understand Superman.
Yeah,
well, not to just understand Superman either, but to understand.
If you want to understand Superman, you should read this.
Understand not just Superman, but superheroes and why Alan Moore was wrong in Watchmen, why they do work. That's what is important to me about All-Star Superman. I think you could subtitle it, "Fuck you, Alan Moore." I'm going to do that in my head now.
I'd be okay with that. And I like Alan Moore.
I have no problem with
you, Alan Moore.
But yeah, I mean, seriously.
I love you.
I mean, we should be careful because he is a 9th level necromancer.
Yeah, he will summon some kind of demon in your pants.
Somebody bad.
So where did you bring that?
Well, I forgot my copy at my house, but Saga is what I was going to recommend.
Great.
Purely off the fact, one, I was looking for something that had a female creator in it, Fiona Staples. It's written by Brian K. Vaughan. The art is fantastic, but mainly because my wife, who is not into comics, she doesn't have an issue with it by any means, but just not something she really prescribes to, at Comic-Con, saw some of the art for Saga and really liked it. So when we got home, she asked me about it.
Right.
And, she kind of said, next year when we go, I'd really like to have something, at least 1 or 2 books that I've read, so I can have something to be excited about.
It's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah, which is great. It's fantastic. As, as kind of like what Chard was saying, when someone, is like, I like this thing, or I want to like this thing that you like, you shouldn't, be like, no, it's mine. Like, you should want to foster that.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, I gave her the first trade, and she read the first 9 issues. She read the first trade and the 3 issues in one sitting, and has since then, got every single issue and is all caught up now, and she loves it. And it's surprising to me in the fact that Saga is very sci-fi. It's very fantasy. There's magic. There's robots. It's not the kind of thing that I would expect someone who's not into comics at all to really grasp hold to. So I think that kind of speaks to the book itself. Kind of just a quick intro to it is it's basically a story about there's like 2 warring races of people. and there's a guard that's guarding a prisoner. They end up falling in love, having a kid, and that's really where the story starts, is when they're having the kid, and they're kind of being hunted by all these different people. And I mean, it's so much deeper than that, and you learn so much more, but you're kind of thrown into it. But the writing's fantastic, the art's fantastic. So far, 11 issues have come out, and it's been a very solid story, I think, all the way through. But the reason I brought it is purely just because I would like to hear what the female audience thinks about it. And it surprises me, too, from working at a comic book store, how equally it's read by female and male comic book readers, and loved equally by them.
And I just have to interject real quick. I don't know. I'm going to be charitable and say it's a total coincidence, but there's a character in Saga that's completely ripped off of a comic by this guy named Evan Dom, who's really great. He did this story called Rice Boy, and there's a race of machine men who all have televisions for heads, and that same exact concept absolutely shows up in Saga.
It's something that...
And I looked at it and I was like, wait, what?
Well,
really?
There's a lot of different
I was gonna
stuff
say,
that have had like TV heads,
Right,
like what the robot from...
If you look at Rice Boy,
Yeah.
which is Evan Dom's work, and then you look at the Saga, it's like the exact same character.
Oh, very cool.
Like, very, very, very similar.
I've always liked...
not just the television head, but the way that they're dressed and the way that they operate. Like,
Cool.
There's a lot of similarities there.
I've always liked the TV head robot idea. Like in Fooly Cooly, they have the robot.
Yeah, which is why I say, like, it's a concept that has existed before. So I would not be surprised if it was a coincidence, but just the degree of similarity in the design took me back the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
But Saga is completely awesome.
All right, Cade.
All right, well, coming into this, as for my recommendation, I actually chose something that Toby had originally thrown out just as something that you might want to bring. And it's kind of, it is something I'd like a female perspective on, but it's kind of the opposite of a female-friendly book. It's done by males, and...
Well, actually, it's also drawn by a woman.
Right, okay.
It's also by Brian K. Vaughan and drawn by Pia Guerra.
Yeah.
I absolutely love.
Yeah, once again, it's like the art is just a feast for the eyes.
But this is a book that when I first got it, my dad, who didn't read comic books, actually picked this one up and finished it before me, which I thought was pretty awesome. But it's about this man York and his monkey Ampersand, and they are the last two males on Earth. And you think about that, and you think kind of like wacky adventures, but this book is very serious. I was actually flipping through the first few trades before I came here because I have most of them. And there is a lot of gore and blood and nudity, and it's very adult, very serious.
By the way, it's called Why the Last Man. Yeah. I don't think we've actually seen
that. Why the Last Man?
I totally stepped on your line.
But just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Cade.
Yeah, it is Why the Last Man. And I really love it, and I think it'd be interesting to get a female perspective on it.
I do too. I mean, I recommended this book when I worked at a comic book store to a lot of female readers because a lot of female readers tend to gravitate towards it because they find an interesting...
It is a really interesting story, and you think like, oh, ha, 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 the last man on Earth in a world of women, like, that's a cheesy idea that's been done to death in like every crappy science fiction TV show.
It is a Twilight episode, essentially, right?
Yeah. There's an episode of Sliders that was that. Like, it's an idea that's been really well filled, but Vaughn and Guerra, like, they do an amazing job with it, and it's totally not what you would expect. Like, well, it's intellectual in a sense, like, thinking about, like, what would a world be like if all the men died?
Well, I think it definitely points out a lot of perceived gender specific roles and kind of flips them on their heads and is like, look, there is no gender role.
And that's the thing, is that ultimately the fact that this is The Last Man in a World of Women is background. It's setting. It's not the story. The story is about the characters and how different people react to this changing world differently.
Well, and it's so violent, and you'd think, again, like we said, the concept sounds so much like a joke or so much like a fun romp through this kind of like, oh, look how wacky that is. But it's incredibly violent, and at no time in the story is Yorick ever safe, because there are essentially people are trying to kill him.
I mean, it's scary. It is literally, there are points where like you're on the edge of your seat, and I mean, people get fucked up in this book.
Yeah.
Like,
it's very dark. There are issues where the entire thing is just nonstop darkness with people killing themselves,
but tastefully done. Let's we've talked a lot about the violence, but this isn't violence for violence sake. This is it's all done in, dare I say, a tasteful manner. It's done in a way to further the story, to let you know the severity of the situation.
Yeah.
And I should probably throw this out just as a quick warning, because we are talking about women's issues a little bit. There should probably be a trigger warning on this book, because there are a lot of issues of sex and violence that occur in this book that could be triggering for somebody who's survived that kind of thing.
And I also feel like I should say I actually know several women that have read this book and don't care for it. They think that Vaughn is way too conscious that he's writing women, and I have to say that I agree with them somewhat. I think it's a good story. I have issues with it that have nothing to do with his writing of women. But the thing is contrasting Saga with Why the Last Man. If you've read Why the Last Man, or if you read Why the Last Man, and then you read Saga, you can definitely tell that Saga has been done by Brian K. Vaughan. That is much more mature. He knows a lot better what he's doing.
He's a lot more comfortable.
He's a lot more comfortable. But funnily enough, the same people that I know that did not like Why the Last Man do not like Saga, which was kind of mind-blowing to me, because I thought it was excellent.
Once again, with certain authors, they have a style, and you know what you're going to get, and if you don't like one thing, maybe you're just not a fan of that author.
Well, and I think that's I think that's what it is. But I mean, I think that it's whenever you're going to have a man writing women, you're going to run into that problem. So just keep that in mind, because it's not superheroes, so it's something that's going to be a lot more apparent if I think keep in mind comfort level when you're reading this. I would just say I think they're both great.
I don't give it to an 11-year-old.
No, God,
definitely
no.
not.
I think that's a pretty good segue into what I'm going to talk about.
What do you?
I disagree with Joe that it's not always going to be the case that a male writer, leaves a footprint on female characters, and that there are some male writers who write female characters better than a lot of female writers. One of which being the author of the book I'm recommending, Greg Rucka. This is Greg Rucka and Steve Lieber's Whiteout. This is one of my absolute favorite books of all time. Favorite comics, favorite characters.
It's amazing.
It's a genre that I love. It's crime fiction. It's a murder mystery set in Antarctica, right?
It's in the Arctic.
Is it? Yeah, it's
Antarctica.
I couldn't remember.
It's McMurdo Base.
It's there's a lot of snow. That's where the term whiteout comes from.
And if you saw the movie, this has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, don't worry.
Nothing to do with
the movie is based more on the inferior sequel to Whiteout than the original.
And I want to make something clear. I wasn't saying that any man that writes a woman is going to have issues with that. I'm saying it's always going to be something you have to talk about when a man is writing a female character. Rucka nails it, and I've said this before. The reason Greg Rucka is a great writer is because he's a great writer of characters.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think the issue some people have with Brian K. Vaughan, which is he knows he's writing a female character. And Greg Rucka is like, I'm just writing this character.
Exactly. I think that's the big difference is
something about Greg Rucka, though, is he was a novelist before he was a comic book writer.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell that it's written more, he writes more like a novel than he does a comic book.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I I think it's great, and I think that it shows here. Like, it's not that it's Carrie Saga, right? Is the main character? It's something like that.
So yeah, I'm the wrong person.
It's not that she.
I've only seen the movie.
It's not that she's
I'm a bad
written.
person.
Wow. Yeah, you need to read this.
In my defense, I read at least 7 volumes of Queen and Country, which is
Yeah.
another book by Greg Rucka with another great female.
Personally, I like this a lot better than Queen and Country, but that's just I really love crime
It's
fiction.
the genre.
It's the genre for
the
me.
genre.
I understand that Queen and Country is a fantastic work. This hits me in the genre that I love. It's not that she is written in a way that she could be interchangeable with a male character. It's not like he's just writing a character and it doesn't matter what gender she is. It's that it isn't brought up until it's important. You know, it's never like, oh, she's a female character, that matters right now, all the time, always. She's always going to think, oh, because I'm a woman, I do XYZ. Like, that doesn't play into it. She acts like a human being and is written like a human being in a way that a lot of writers don't write. And I think that's one thing that really detracts from Gail Simone's writing that I dislike is every single female character she writes, she has to constantly remind you that that's a woman. It's like, I know, I can tell I'm looking at it. Like, I get it. And it just feels so heavy-handed. And it's something that Greg doesn't do. Like, he just writes characters so well. And it's such a great story. It's essentially like that locked room murder mystery where it's like no one can leave and no one can come in. So someone right here, right now, committed the crime. Exactly. We have to find out why. There's a lot of danger. There's the threat is not just that the murderer is still trapped there with them, but that the elements are against them as well. They're in a hostile environment.
Well, there's a time factor too, isn't it?
Yeah. The planes are going to come in and be able to take away. People are going to be able to leave, and she can't let anyone leave because she's a U.S. Marshal, I believe.
Yep.
And
she's like the one cop in the South Pole.
Right, and so she has to solve this mystery on her own, and
which is funny because I'm pretty sure the U.S. Marshals are actually part of the judicial branch, and their only job is to like find people who have had judicial summons ordering them to show up in court. And drag them
they do WITSEC, and they do warrants, and they're like, if the FBI is like the nation's investigative team, the marshals are like the nation's cops.
Well, and also, I believe she's an ex-U.S. Marshal. Because I think that there's a point in the story where it shows her backstory and like where she fucked up and something went wrong, and that's why she's in Antarctica. And no, there is no other law enforcement there. Like, she's there not because she's the greatest U.S. Marshal ever. Like, something went wrong. Yeah. And this is a punishment for her to be there.
Which just builds on the character.
I don't think I need to say this explicitly, but I know jack shit about American jurisprudence.
Yeah, I don't. I'm
just making up shit that I saw in movies. Yeah. I don't fucking know.
But
what's the one that Mark Harmon fellow works for on the television? That's a nice show there. No, it's not. It's awful.
Mark Harmon?
Yeah.
Dan Harmon?
No. The NCIS? Jethro.
Never seen it.
Okay. The other thing about this book that I love is the art is fantastic.
You ruined my joke!
The art is fantastic, and Steve Lieber kills in this book. This is my favorite book that he's illustrated. He's done other stuff that I really enjoy, but this, for me, like the way he does the snow environment outside is he drew.
It's black and white too.
It's black and white, and then he drew the art, and then he went over the top of that with whiteout to create the snowflakes. So they're all like put over the top of it as art. So
Which
it's really
is where
interesting.
The name comes. No.
It's really interesting because it's kind of a destructive art.
Yeah.
A destructive way to do art. So he uses a lot of old school texturing techniques where he'll cut out textures of the pattern, they used to do like the cross-stitch shading and stuff. He uses a lot of that in this book and then goes over the top of it with this whiteout to create these very cool snowy environments that are really, really good.
Yeah, Steve Lieber's art in this book specifically made me love black and white art.
Oh, yeah.
Up until that point, I'd kind of put up with it. It'd been one of those things where I'd be like, this is a black and white book. Dang it. Yeah. And I'd read it and kind of always be like, I just wish this was in color. Yeah. Until I read that book. Yeah. And when I read that book, I instantly loved black and white art and gained a whole new respect for it.
It's so expressive, and I think it fits the story so well, not only because it's like set in Antarctica, but just like I find a lot of crime fiction books work really well when they're done in black and white. I kind of appreciate that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, noir.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the world that. I don't know. I agree with you. I think black and white lends itself very well to crime fiction.
I think it's really strong. So this is my recommendation. I really love it. And it's also noteworthy that there is a great crossover with Whiteout at some point with another one of our favorite characters, Barry Ween. So if you haven't read the crossover between Whiteout and Barry Ween...
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's in the big book of Barry Ween. It's in the big fat book. It's like right at the end, and Barry Ween shows up in Antarctica, and there's a really weird crossover between him and the main character.
Weird is right.
I've seen that.
So if you guys, I know you're fans of Barry Ween, you should go look that up, because it's crazy. And it's written, I think, by both Winnick and Rucka.
Oh, Judd Winnick.
Yeah.
God, what happened to you?
And just a side note to kind of talking about Greg Rucka being a great character writer, he definitely, I would say, favors female characters.
Absolutely.
Which, in just about anything that he's written, I've been a big fan of. I mean, definitely check out, like, Stumptown.
Oh, God, Stumptown.
Stumptown is...
They're doing they've just done a sequel, and they're collecting it. It'll be out in September.
Joss Whedon does that, too. Strong female characters.
Oh, absolutely.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Stumptown, his Batwoman stuff was really good. Just basically anything that he's done, I'm a huge fan of.
Speaking
his
of
work.
Joss Whedon, that was my second pick for tonight. Was Frey the Future Slayer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my second pick for tonight. So, which is set in the Buffy universe, but in the far-flung future. So
The far-flung, fluffy fluter.
Yeah, so
trying to underrate that.
That was my second honorable mention tonight. It goes to
nice.
Frey the Future Slayer. If you like strong female characters.
My honorable mention was going to be the new 52 Catwoman, which I do not own and did not want to own, and so did not bring it because I think it's awful.
I think we kind of.
Then why would you recommend it?
I think people
because I don't have a real copy to give to people to read, and I can't ask them to like sully their hard drives by downloading it.
I also think that
my honorable mentions were Saga and Why the Last Man, so I feel like I'm sitting pretty.
I think it's worth mentioning, though, that if we had picked Catwoman, I think we kind of know what the response was.
Yeah,
yeah, but that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted vitriol. I mean, like, let's not fool ourselves.
Seems
all right,
somewhat counterproductive.
I am going to.
Yeah, what do you want to read?
I'm going to vote for Whiteout, actually, because I think I love it, and I would love to see what. Also, if we pick it, I can get Kirby to read it.
Well, it's a genre that you and I both really like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, crime fiction kind of love sci-fi, and I love Why the Last Man, I have mixed feelings about like I said before, and Saga I kind of have an inside track on, but Whiteout. I like Whiteout.
I'm desperately torn. Like I really don't know. Can I pass and you come back to me?
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay. A first for this podcast.
No, I did that on the first
Cade's
episode.
I was a second.
That's the first time. Usually, by the time we get to the end, I know exactly what I want to vote for, and now I don't.
All right,
go ahead, Matt.
All right. I am actually going to go for All-Star Superman just because I really want to know what they think of a superhero book that is not written or drawn by a female creator and is just something that I love a lot. Yeah. So,
Whiteout.
All right, Cade goes strong Whiteout on that one.
What about you, Chard?
I have to pick last so I can break ties. That's just how this works.
I'll break the tie if there's a tie.
Okay, I actually would love to see them read Saga, mostly because I have been meaning to read it, and I'm going to be here recording them next week, and it'll give me a good excuse to... I'm not going to say anything on the episode, but I'll have to be running the sound gear, so it gives me a good excuse to read it so they don't spoil it for me. It'll just force me to read it in the next week, so I'm going to pick Saga. I also am really interested in it as well, so...
I was trying to decide between Whiteout and Saga, and I said I'd break a tie, so I'm not going to vote for Saga, I'm going to vote for Whiteout.
Okay.
All right.
I think that works.
Okay.
all right.
We'll see you. You'll hear us.
Well,
we'll never see you, hopefully.
We'll
like
see
that
you in the next episode. You will see us in a couple of them.
Yeah.
Because we can see you through this podcast.
We can.
Wow, you guys have some really cool glasses.
By downloading it, you've given us the right to spy on you in your bedroom.
All right. Well, we'll be back in 2 episodes, and next episode will be Ladies' Night.
It will.
Ladies.
And we will see you next time.
Excellent.
All right, bye.
Bye.